Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. I'll admit, when I first started watching episode 11, small problem, I didn't think I'd enjoy it. I'm simply not one for the kidnapped by scientist and wrongly assumed to be either an alien monster, whatever plotline. I've seen it too many times in fiction to really be entertained by it anymore, and yet this still wasn't that bad of an episode. Probably on account of it including the first appearance of the Forever Knights, although in this episode they're simply referred to as the organization. No, not that organization. A bunch of dudes running around collecting alien tech while wearing medieval suits of armor is a really cool concept. It's almost fantasy versus sci-fi in a way. It's their inclusion that sets this episode apart, otherwise I'd have been a little bored out of my mind. I'm not saying the parts where Ben, stuck as gray matter, being trapped in Hal's house were badly written, they were just boring. Not to mention, despite this alien form being incredibly smart, he still had a hard time escaping. I mean, to be fair, you could blame that on his size, but still, did he really need to bait a cat to knock his glass prison over? It seems like he could have done it himself with enough force. This episode also reminds us that there's more to Max than meets the eye. We've gotten a few hints and suspicious looks in the past few episodes, even going back to the first episode, but this should definitely make it clear that he's hiding something from his grandkids. Of course, as most of us have seen the series, we know what he's hiding, but for those watching alongside me who have not seen the show before, I will refrain from spoiling what that is. It's also the first episode where the Watch traps Ben as an alien, something that I believe will continue to happen, if the ending of the episode is anything to go off of. Along with the organization now having their eyes set on Ben and his family, I think this is an excellent wrinkle to add to the series at this point. Now, we're only a few more episodes away from the season 1 finale, and I don't think they involve this group, so the writers are definitely setting up a big confrontation in season 2. So, yes, while the episode started off rocky and was boring, the inclusion of a secret group that will almost certainly play into the story of season 2 was a great addition, and it turned the episode around for me personally. It's always smart for a writer, or a group of writers, to seed future stories before you eventually get to them. And those were my thoughts on this episode. What were yours? Let me know in the comments below, and please be sure to check out the links following the end of the video. Thanks for watching, take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. We're almost through with season 1 of Ben 10, but first we've got to talk about episode 12, Side Effects, the penultimate episode of the season. Now, what is this episode's villain, you ask? It's Clancy, controller of bugs. Oh boy, are we in for an episode crawling with bug puns? Surprisingly not. There are a few, but gratefully, Greg Klein, the writer for this episode, spares us that. I'm not against puns, otherwise I'd have hated the Xanth novels and Chugga Conroy. It's just that sometimes they can bug you. As most villains go, a bug-based one isn't high on the originality scale, and if you're watching a series about a superhero or just superpowered characters in general, you're bound to run into one at some point. Take my episode 1 review of the original Powerpuff Girls, which you can click on this card to watch, which featured a villain who also controlled insects and wanted to destroy mankind. That's just one example, I promise you there's more. Now, of course, it doesn't alone merit me criticizing the choice in bad guys for this episode. It's all about execution. You can take a worn-out concept and revitalize it, but this episode doesn't really do that. Let's go down a checklist. Does he look creepy and basically look like a slob? Check. Does he live in a run-down building? Check. Does he want to destroy mankind and or view insects as superior to humans? Check and check. By all accounts, he doesn't seem to be that good of a villain, and we don't even learn how he came to possess his powers. I do know he appears later in the series, so we'll probably have to wait for some explanation as I don't really recall. What saved this episode from just being an okay episode was the fact that Ben got sick. Ben already has to deal with the Watch constantly messing up, or giving him the wrong alien that he wanted. So watching his human illness mess with his alien forms was hilarious and illuminating. Wild Mutt couldn't see because mucus was clogging his gill-like nostrils. Forums translated Ben's hives into pus-filled pockets. Gross. And more interestingly, Heat Blast gained the ability to shoot ice. That last one was the one I enjoyed the most because thus far Ben has no ice-based alien and won't until, I believe, Alien Force with Big Chill. For a second when I saw the blue flames, I just assumed the sickness had made Heat Blast flames even hotter, as I think a blue flame tends to indicate a hotter temperature than a regular orange one, but that turned out not to be the case. Now, I could criticize this episode for how the insects moved when in a tightly clumped swarm, or when they formed around Clancy, but I'm not going to. Why? Because I do understand animation is a difficult task, and animating hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny insects would be too difficult unless you used a lot of CGI, I imagine. So yes, while at times insects looked really weird or seemed to be glitching out at times, I'm giving it a pass and asking the animators if they need a hug. Besides that, the only other criticism I have is the lack of any guards in the nuclear plant. One could suppose Clancy took care of them, but I don't remember seeing any bodies laying around, do you? It's a small detail, but one that could have helped ease my suspension of disbelief over a nuclear plant being pretty close to a city. I mean, it looks really close by in this shot. Other than that, I say this still ended up being a good episode, even with an uninteresting villain and the fact that this ended up being the second to last episode of the season. I was really expecting something more, but I still enjoyed the episode. What about you? Did you enjoy it or dislike it? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to consider checking out my other cartoon reviews and Let's Plays. Then subscribe for more of that. Thanks for watching. Take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. This is it, the finale of Ben 10 Season 1. Does episode 13, Secrets, live up to the hype? Yes. Yes it does. After an entire season of teasing us with a build-up to a grand battle between Ben and Vilgax, we finally get just that, and it's truly spectacular. Secrets was an exciting episode from start to finish with not much time to stop and question what's going on. The episode never really slows down once it picks up steam, and I loved every second of it. And Vilgax, as the big villain of the season, does not disappoint in the slightest. I'd forgotten how massive he was. He is truly a sight to behold, from his large stature to his relentlessness, or even his entrance. You really get the feeling this will be a tough foe for Ben to overcome alone. And throughout the episode, even though Ben gets some good hits in, he just can't take down Vilgax. This is where Max comes in, who we've known from the start was hiding something from his grandchildren. Obviously, seasoned Ben 10 fans like us know what that info is, but for the sake of these flashback reviews, I've done my best to not spoil it for anyone watching alongside my reviews for the first time. And that will continue for this review, as I'm only going to discuss what we learned in this episode and not what it means for the series as a whole. It's fun finally getting more information as to what Max has been hiding. It's even more fun watching Gwen freak out over it, especially when it leads to a hidden bunker within Mount Rushmore that contains weapons to take down Vilgax specifically.
And how do you know about that alien guy who's after Ben?
Well, it's kind of complicated, but let's just say I wasn't exactly your normal plumber before I retired.
In this entire season, this is definitely the most amount of help Max has been, and he's been fairly helpful, but it was great to see him finally take charge and be just as much of a hero as Ben. The only real downside to this finale is that while we do learn a bit more about what Max has been hiding, that information can only really be figured out if you've already seen this season before. And by episode's end, you'll be none the wiser until season 2.
Grandpa? We need to talk.
From a storytelling perspective, I can get leaving the bulk of the secrets for season 2 to reveal, but in an episode clearly titled Secrets, I would expect more of those secrets to actually be revealed. So on that front, newcomers may be slightly let down by this episode's finale. If you don't mind waiting for your questions to be answered, however, then I think this could end up being your favorite episode out of the season. It has the most satisfying action of the entire 13 episodes because you've got the toughest foe Ben has ever faced. And my god, the action sequences are like candy. They're so perfectly animated and a lot of destruction is shown off. Buildings being leveled, pavement being turned into tar or flat out destroyed. Now, unless you hated Man of Steel, you'll probably get a kick out of how this episode amps up the tension and action. It really helps the action moments that a power surge / glitch made Ben keep changing from alien to alien. It wouldn't have been much of a fun episode without all 10 of his aliens being used in a futile effort to defeat Vilgax. And even with the might of his watch, Ben still needs help from his family, and that's a very heartwarming moment. Episode 13 is a fantastic episode, and I can't wait for us to get into Season 2, which I believe will reveal more backstory about Max. Let me know what you thought about this episode, and your favorite moments down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, go check out my other reviews, then consider subscribing for more cartoon reviews and Let's Plays. Thanks for watching, and take care.